Have you ever wondered, as you stand beneath the quiet canopy of the night sky, where the ultimate architect of all this vastness resides? We look up at the twinkling lights, feeling completely grounded and still, yet we are hurtling through a cold, ancient void at unimaginable speeds. It is a profound contradiction between our peaceful human perception and the violent, infinite reality of the cosmos. For millennia, humanity has pointed to the heavens when asked where the Creator, the Divine, or the Prime Mover might be located. We imagined a kingdom just beyond the clouds, a celestial sphere wrapped gently around our tiny, fragile Earth. But as our eyes grew sharper and our scientific instruments reached further into the endless dark, the sky opened up into a staggering, terrifying, and profoundly beautiful abyss. The moon does not just sit peacefully in the sky. It is locked in a relentless gravitational dance. The stars are not just gentle pinpricks of light. They are furious nuclear furnaces burning hydrogen into helium across unfathomable distances, shining their ancient light into the absolute silence of the universe. When we ask where the ultimate source of all creation is located, modern science offers us a journey that is far more shocking and deeply meditative than any ancient myth could ever capture. Hello, my friends. Welcome to another quiet journey into the unknown. I am Theodore, the researcher, your gentle guide through the cosmic mysteries. Before we delve deeper into the vast silence of the universe and search for the ultimate center of everything, I must share a small reality with you. I notice that 71% of the beautiful minds who watch our explorations have not yet subscribed to the channel. If you find peace and wonder in these cosmic journeys, please consider subscribing. It helps us tremendously to keep creating these gentle meditations on science and existence, allowing us to continue exploring the universe together and building a community of curious minds. Now, let us return to the quiet dark. Let your mind relax, take a deep breath, and let us travel outward into the endless night. To understand the location of the ultimate source of everything, we must first truly understand the scale of the cosmos. If you're anything like me, you probably thought you understood how big things could get in space. We are used to density, to things being close together, to our world being completely full of life, sound, and complex structure. But step outside our solar system, and total emptiness becomes the absolute rule of reality. The space between stars in our Milky Way is almost unimaginably empty, a quiet void that stretches on forever. Our nearest stellar neighbor, a small and faint red dwarf called Proxima Centauri, is about 4.24 light-years away from us. That physical distance is so profoundly great that if you were to somehow shrink our massive sun down to the size of a single tiny grain of sand, Proxima Centauri would be another tiny grain of sand sitting roughly 4 miles away. The space in between those two microscopic grains would be essentially a silent, ancient void containing only the faintest whisper of cold gas and dust alongside the occasional drifting particle of cosmic radiation. In this endless, terrifying emptiness, where do we possibly look for a center? Where do we point our greatest telescopes to find the throne of creation? For most of human history, we assumed that that hazy band of soft light stretching overhead, which we call the Milky Way, was the entire universe in its totality. We thought our galaxy was absolutely everything that ever was and ever will be. Ancient people thought it looked exactly like spilled milk across the dark heavens, and various cultures wove beautiful, gentle stories to explain its glowing presence. The ancient Greeks told comforting stories of milk spilled from a goddess, while in India it was beautifully seen as the quiet path that souls take on their gentle, final journey to the afterlife. People throughout human history have looked up at that exact same band of light, seeking a deep connection to something infinite and wondering what profound truth might be hiding in the starry silence. It was not until the first optical telescopes were turned toward that milky glow in the 17th century that observers began to realize the shocking truth. The soft, cloud-like band resolved into countless individual stars, far too faint and far too numerous to see with the naked human eye, but clearly visible through the magnifying power of curved glass lenses. This was the very first gentle hint that our galaxy, our cosmic home, was far larger and contained far more stars than anyone had ever dared to imagine in their wildest dreams. The Milky Way is a barred spiral galaxy, a magnificent and immense structure with beautiful curving arms made of ancient stars, cold gas, and primordial dust, all swirling in a quiet, majestic dance around a dense central bulge. From one edge to the other, our galaxy measures roughly 100,000 light-years across the dark expanse. That means if you could somehow travel at the absolute speed limit of the universe, the speed of light, it would still take you 100,000 years just to cross from one side of our cosmic neighborhood to the other. 100,000 years is a span of time significantly longer than modern humans have even existed on this small blue world we call home. It is a time frame longer than every civilization that has ever risen, flourished, built monuments, and quietly fallen back into the dust of the earth, all combined into one continuous history. Yet this incomprehensible expanse is just the width of our own little corner of the vast, expanding cosmos. Our galaxy is home to somewhere between 200 billion and 400 billion stars. Our own sun, the warm, gentle star that gives us life and sustains our delicate planet, is just one of those hundreds of billions of stars sitting quietly in a peaceful neighborhood called the Orion Arm, about 26,000 light-years away from the galactic center. Our sun and its accompanying family of planets, including our fragile Earth, orbit the center of the galaxy at a staggering and incomprehensible speed of about 500,000 miles per hour. Even at that tremendous velocity, it takes our solar system about 250 million years to complete a single, quiet lap around the deep galactic center. Astronomers sometimes call this incredibly long period cosmic year or a galactic year. In the entire time that massive dinosaurs roamed the earth, breathing the ancient air and walking the prehistoric soil, our solar system did not even complete one full orbit around the galaxy. The vastness is absolutely humbling and serves to completely reframe our perspective on existence. When we ask about the location of a divine architect, we are asking from the limited perspective of beings who live for less than a cosmic instant, completely adrift in a structure so vast that crossing it defies all human comprehension. And yet, as incredibly enormous as the Milky Way is, the true shock came in the 1920s when a brilliant astronomer named Edwin Hubble proved that the fuzzy, faint smudges seen through our telescopes were not just small clouds of gas within our galaxy, but rather entirely separate galaxies themselves. Each one was an island universe of stars impossibly far away, floating silently in the endless dark of space. This profound and monumental discovery completely changed everything we thought we knew about our place in the cosmos. Our galaxy was not the whole cosmos. It was merely one single galaxy among an unfathomable many. The universe was vastly larger than anyone had ever imagined, filled with countless galaxies, each containing billions or even trillions of their own stars. Today, as we peer deep into the cosmic silence with our most advanced instruments, we estimate that there are around 2 trillion galaxies floating within the observable universe. 2 trillion. That is a 2 followed by 12 zeros, a number so large it challenges reality. Each of those galaxies contains billions, sometimes even trillions, of burning stars. The numbers become so incredibly large that they literally stop meaning anything to our human brains. They dissolve into a pure, abstract feeling of deep wonder and infinite awe. In this boundless, ancient ocean of light and dark, where is the center? If the universe is the grand creation, where is the physical location from which it all sprang into existence? For centuries, human intuition, grounded deeply in our earthly, everyday experiences, demanded that there absolutely must be a specific center point. We imagined a physical location where the ultimate energy resides, a celestial throne room at the absolute middle of everything. But science reveals a paradox that is far more beautiful, mysterious, and deeply meditative than a simple location. In the 1990s, 2 independent teams of astronomers made a truly shocking discovery by observing distant supernovas, using them as cosmic standard candles to measure the ongoing expansion of the universe. They discovered that the universe is not just simply expanding, but that the overall rate of expansion is accelerating over time, driven by a mysterious, quiet force we now call dark energy. This mysterious force acts as a kind of anti-gravity, gently but relentlessly pushing space itself apart. Because space itself is expanding in all directions simultaneously, every single point in the universe sees everything else moving away from it. Imagine baking a loaf of raisin bread. As the dough rises and expands in the oven, every single raisin moves away from every other raisin. No matter which raisin you choose to stand on, it looks exactly like you're at the absolute center of the expansion. In the grand cosmic scale, this means that there is actually no absolute center of the universe. Or rather, everywhere is the center. Every single point in the infinite expanse of the cosmos can equally claim to be the exact center of creation. The profound philosophical implication of this scientific truth is staggering and beautiful. The location we seek, the hypothetical seat of the ultimate, is not a distant, unreachable coordinate billions of light years away in the cold dark. It is right here. It is also everywhere else. The center of the universe is in the quiet room where you rest right now. It is in the burning heart of our blazing sun. It is in the absolute cold, empty voids between distant galaxies. And it is in the dark hearts of the supermassive black holes that anchor the ancient cosmic structures. This realization invites a deep, abiding sense of intellectual safety and inner peace. We are not lost or abandoned on the distant periphery of existence. We are woven directly into its fundamental fabric. The exact same processes that built the most massive structures in the cosmos built us. The atoms in our fragile bodies were forged in the silent, ancient furnaces of stars that lived and died before our solar system was even a thought. We are not separate from the universe, observing it passively from the outside. We are the living universe actively observing itself from within. A beautiful awakening of matter. As we journey together through the upcoming chapters, we will explore the true shape of this cosmos, the giant galaxies that inhabit it, and the ultimate destiny of all matter and light, continuously pushing the boundaries of what we know while seeking the quiet peace that comes from fully embracing the great cosmic mystery. As we continue our gentle journey through the dark and quiet expanse of the cosmos, let us gently shift our perspective and ask a new question. If the center of the universe is everywhere all at once, as the relentless expansion of space clearly suggests, perhaps human intuition would then ask something slightly different. If there is an ultimate architect, a divine presence, or a grand prime mover, perhaps they do not reside at a simple geometric center, but rather upon the grandest, most magnificent throne imaginable. Perhaps we should look for the absolute largest, most majestic physical structure in the entire universe to find the definitive source of all this infinite wonder. When we look out into the deep silence of the night, gazing far past the familiar comforting stars of our own Milky Way, we do not just find random, chaotic scatters of galaxies. The universe, in all its ancient wisdom, is highly and beautifully organized, thanks to the meticulous observations of space agencies like NASA and the European Space Agency, and the tireless, quiet work of countless astronomers peering through giant glass lenses in the dark. We have discovered that the cosmos is structured much like a vast, interconnected cosmic web. Imagine a delicate, infinite spider's web woven entirely from ancient light and invisible gravity, stretching across billions of light years of empty space. In this endless web, galaxies are not isolated, lonely islands. They are grouped tightly together in massive clusters, shining like morning dewdrops, suspended gracefully on invisible threads of dark matter. These enormous clusters are the largest gravitationally bound structures in the entire universe, containing hundreds or even thousands of individual galaxies, all orbiting around a common center of mass in a beautiful, unimaginably slow cosmic dance. The space between these galaxies is not entirely empty. It is filled with an incredibly sparse, superheated gas called the intracluster medium. This gas is so profoundly hot that it emits high-energy X-rays, which our advanced space telescopes can easily detect, revealing a glowing, ethereal haze that permeates the dark and quiet void. If we truly wish to find the grandest structure, we must travel together to the very heart of one of these massive clusters. Let us turn our minds and our imaginations toward a specific, quiet region in the constellation of Virgo, located over 1 billion light-years away from our fragile, beautiful Earth. Here lies a massive collection of galaxies known to science as the Abell 2029 cluster. Because ancient light takes an enormous amount of time to travel through the vast emptiness of space, when we observe this magnificent cluster today, we are actually looking deeply into the distant past. We are seeing it exactly as it was over 1 billion years ago. At that ancient time, life on our small blue planet was still mostly simple. Single-celled organisms resting peacefully in primordial oceans, long before the dinosaurs, long before the first footsteps of humanity. The light from this distant cluster has been traveling through the absolute cold and silence of the intergalactic void for 1 billion years, just to reach our gentle eyes and our optical instruments. And sitting right at the dense gravitational center of this massive cluster, dominating everything around it like a cosmic emperor resting on a dark, quiet throne, is a galaxy known to astronomers by the rather unassuming catalog name of IC 1101. If there were ever a physical structure grand enough to be considered the literal throne of creation, this is undeniably it. It is one of the largest and most massive galaxies we have ever discovered in the entire observable universe, a true titan sleeping in the endless night. To truly appreciate the majestic, mind-bending scale of IC 1101, we must once again use our own Milky Way as a humble measuring stick. Our home galaxy, which contained hundreds of billions of stars and takes light 100,000 years just to cross, is incredibly vast to our limited human minds. Yet, IC 1101 is estimated to be roughly 4 to 6 million light-years across its smooth, oval body. It is roughly 40 to 60 times larger than our entire cosmic neighborhood. If you were to gently take this giant and place it exactly where our Milky Way currently sits, it would not just swallow our galaxy. It would entirely consume the neighboring Andromeda galaxy, the Triangulum galaxy, and all of the dozens of smaller dwarf galaxies that make up our local group. All of these separate, magnificent island universes would simply become tiny, swallowed components within the unimaginably vast body of this single cosmic giant. It is a structure so enormously large that it defies all common sense, challenging our basic perception of what is possible in the physical world and inspiring a deep, respectful awe. Inside this colossal structure resides a population of stars that is equally staggering and difficult to comprehend. While our Milky Way might hold up to 400 billion stars, IC 1101 is estimated to contain around 100 trillion stars. 100 trillion. If you were to start counting these burning spheres of plasma, counting one star every single second without ever stopping to sleep, eat, or breathe, it would take you over 3 million years just to reach 100 trillion. Each one of those stars is a massive nuclear furnace, many of them ancient red dwarfs that burn their hydrogen fuel so slowly and so carefully that they will continue to shine for trillions of years into the dark future, long after the rest of the universe has grown cold. Around these 100 trillion stars, there could be countless trillions of orbiting planets, rocky worlds, and gas giants wrapped in deep silence. Perhaps some of those distant worlds are harboring their own deep mysteries, their own gentle chemical reactions, or perhaps even their own forms of conscious life, looking up at a sky ablaze with an unimaginable, blinding density of light, asking the exact same questions about the Creator that we ask here on Earth. But how exactly does a structure this massive and overwhelming come to exist? The scientific answer reveals a profound truth about the nature of the cosmos, a truth that contrasts sharply with our deep human desire for a peaceful, static, and unchanging universe. Galaxies do not form all at once in a single moment of creation. They grow over billions of years through a relentless, ongoing process of accumulation and merging. This is what modern astronomers call hierarchical structure formation. In the ancient past, small clouds of primordial gas collapsed to form the first tiny dwarf galaxies. These dwarfs were then pulled together by their mutual gravity to form larger spiral galaxies. And in the incredibly dense hearts of galaxy clusters, these larger galaxies are inevitably drawn towards the very center, where they collide and merge together. IC 1101 is what scientists sometimes describe as a cannibal galaxy. For billions of years, it has sat patiently at the center of its cluster, using its immense gravitational pull to draw in and consume any smaller galaxy that wandered too close. It has grown to its gargantuan size through dozens, perhaps hundreds, of these major cosmic collisions. Yet, despite this incredibly long history of violent cosmic mergers, the resulting galaxy is not a chaotic, broken mess. It is an elliptical galaxy, meaning it has a smooth, featureless, oval shape that glows with a soft, uniform light. The delicate, beautiful spiral arms that characterize galaxies like our own Milky Way have been completely erased and smoothed out by the sheer gravitational chaos of countless mergers, leaving behind a quiet, giant sphere populated almost entirely by ancient, aging stars. Because it has consumed all the available gas in its vicinity over billions of years, very few new stars are being born inside it today. It is a dying empire, utterly magnificent in its scale and power, but slowly fading into the cosmic night. At the very center of this fading giant lies the ultimate mystery, the absolute core of this massive throne, sitting quietly in the heart of IC 1101, is one of the largest supermassive black holes ever discovered by human science. Scientists estimate that this incredibly dark entity contains a mass between 40 billion and 100 billion times the mass of our own sun. It is a region of space where gravity is so overwhelmingly intense that the fabric of space and time itself completely breaks down, and not even light, the fastest thing in the universe, can escape its silent grasp. The event horizon of this sleeping monster would be roughly 15 times larger than our entire solar system. When we search for the ultimate architect, when we look out into the dark for a divine center, human intuition strongly expects to find a source of infinite, blinding light. But at the exact center of the largest structure we know, at the very heart of the grandest cosmic throne we have ever discovered, we find a sphere of absolute, inescapable darkness. Does this mean the universe is a cold, hostile place, devoid of any deeper meaning? I certainly do not think so. I believe it teaches us a lesson in profound, beautiful humility. The physical processes that built IC 1101, the patient gravity, the deep time, the slow accumulation of drifting matter, are exactly the same physical processes that formed the Earth and eventually gave rise to us. The violence of a galactic merger, when viewed from a great enough distance, is just a slow, silent dance taking place over hundreds of millions of years. The supermassive black hole at the center is not a malevolent monster seeking to destroy. It is simply a heavy anchor, a fundamental consequence of the elegant, unbiased laws of physics that gently govern the infinite cosmos. The search for a specific physical location for God, or a central prime mover, fundamentally misunderstands the breathtaking nature of the universe we have discovered. The cosmos is not a kingdom ruled from a central throne room. It is an evolving, dynamic, endlessly interconnected web of relationships and forces. The grand architecture is not a specific place. The architecture is the continuous process itself. The divine, the ultimate mystery, is not hiding behind a distant nebula or sitting inside a supermassive black hole waiting to be found. The true mystery is the fact that the laws of physics allow for such magnificent, complex structures to exist at all. The wonder is that simple hydrogen gas, left entirely alone for 13.8 billion years, can eventually organize itself into burning stars, giant cannibal galaxies, silent black holes, and eventually conscious human minds capable of peering back into the dark to ask these very profound questions. As we float here in the quiet vastness of our imagination, contemplating the 100 trillion stars of this distant giant, we must gently realize that our ongoing journey to understand the cosmos is also a journey to deeply understand ourselves. We are the universe reflecting upon its own grand majesty, finding peace in our smallness. We will continue to drift deeper into these mysteries in the chapters to come, seeking not final answers that kill our curiosity, but a deeper, more peaceful appreciation of the profound unknown that wraps gently around us all. As we drift further away from the glowing heart of the giant galaxy we call IC 1101, we must confront a deeply unsettling, yet profoundly beautiful paradox. We have historically searched for the location of a grand architect among the burning stars and the swirling galaxies, assuming that the ultimate truth must be built from the exact same tangible matter that makes up our own gentle bodies. But what if the vast majority of existence is entirely invisible? Have you ever realized that absolutely everything we can physically see, every single star, every distant planet, every glowing nebula, and every microscopic speck of cosmic dust makes up only a minuscule fraction of what is actually out there. When we look out into the quiet cosmos, our human eyes and our most advanced instruments are completely blinded by the brilliant, ancient light, entirely missing the silent, unseen ocean that directly dictates the majestic motion of everything. In our ongoing journey to find the ultimate source of creation, we must now step away from the comforting light and learn to embrace the deep, invisible mysteries that truly govern the universe from the absolute shadows. To properly understand this mind-bending reality, let us return for a moment to the magnificent, terrifying scale of galaxies. But before we dive completely into this invisible ocean, I want to gently remind you that you are exploring the cosmos with Theodore, the researcher. I have noticed that roughly 71% of the curious, beautiful minds who watch our quiet cosmic journeys have not yet subscribed to the channel. If you find peace and intellectual safety in these gentle scientific explorations, please consider subscribing. It helps us tremendously to continue creating these contemplative stories and ensures we can keep wandering through the universe together. Now, let us take a deep breath, relax our minds, and return to the beautiful, silent dark of the cosmos. When modern astronomers utilizing the incredibly advanced tools of space agencies like NASA and the European Space Agency carefully measure exactly how galaxies rotate in the silent dark, they find something that completely shatters our everyday common sense. A spiral galaxy like our own Milky Way, or the colossal elliptical structure of IC 1101, spins at incredible, dizzying speeds, according to the strict, well-tested laws of physics that govern gravity. The visible matter, meaning the billions of bright stars and the vast, sweeping clouds of cold gas, simply does not possess nearly enough gravitational pull to hold the entire massive structure together. Under normal circumstances, these galaxies should fly apart, violently scattering their ancient stars into the endless void, like a handful of fine sand thrown carelessly into a strong winter wind. Yet they remain beautifully intact, held together in a quiet, majestic dance that lasts for billions of years without failing. The only logical conclusion, supported by many decades of rigorous scientific observation, is that all galaxies are completely surrounded by vast, invisible halos of a mysterious substance we call dark matter. This enigmatic material does not emit, absorb, or reflect any form of light whatsoever. It is completely imperceptible to our natural eyes and our optical telescopes. Yet, in a typical spiral galaxy, it astonishingly accounts for roughly 90% of the total mass. Let that profound realization wash over you for a gentle, reflective moment. When you look up at the night sky and feel a deep sense of awe at the vast array of glowing stars, you're only seeing the fragile, bright foam floating on the surface of a tremendously deep, invisible ocean. The massive, dominating body of IC 1101, which we previously imagined as the ultimate throne of creation, has a dark matter halo so enormously profound that it might extend for tens of millions of light years into the silent intergalactic space, weighing as much as 1,100 trillion times the mass of our own humble sun. We cannot see it, we cannot physically touch it, and despite the tireless, brilliant efforts of physicists across the globe, we do not yet know exactly what kind of exotic, unknown particle it is actually made of. But we know with absolute certainty that it is there, because we can distinctly feel its gentle, guiding gravity, shaping the entire cosmos. If we are searching for a divine presence, a quiet prime mover that holds the universe together without ever revealing its face, Is this invisible scaffolding not a profoundly beautiful scientific metaphor? Dark matter acts as the quiet architect of the cosmic web, the unseen hand that gathers normal matter together so that stars can safely ignite. Planets can form in peaceful orbits, and conscious life can eventually awaken to ask these very questions. But the beautiful mystery deepens even further, leading us into an even more profound state of awe. In the late 1990s, dedicated scientists were carefully tracking distant, exploding stars to measure how the gravity of all this cosmic matter was slowly pulling the expanding universe back together, acting like a gentle, inevitable brake on the cosmos. But they found exactly the opposite, completely shocking the entire scientific community and rewriting our understanding of physics. The expansion of the universe is not slowing down. It is actively and undeniably accelerating. Something is relentlessly pushing space itself apart, counteracting the inward pull of gravity and causing the physical distances between distant galaxies to grow at an ever-increasing rate. Scientists name this baffling, terrifying force dark energy, though the name is merely a placeholder for our own profound, humbling ignorance. We currently know that this quiet, relentless force makes up roughly 68% of all the energy in the entire observable universe. It acts as a kind of anti-gravity, a smooth, invisible pressure that completely pervades every single inch of the endless void, pushing the cosmos toward an unknown destiny. When we mathematically combine these two invisible titans, the mathematical truth of our reality becomes absolutely staggering to contemplate. Dark energy makes up roughly 68% of the universe. Dark matter makes up about 27%. Together, they constitute exactly 95% of absolutely everything that exists. All the brilliant stars, all the colorful nebulas, all the supermassive black holes, all the rocky planets, every high mountain, every deep ocean, every human being that has ever lived, and every single atom of normal matter that we have ever studied, constitutes a mere 5% of the cosmos. We are a tiny, luminous anomaly floating gently in a universe that is fundamentally dark and completely invisible. It is a humbling reminder that our human senses, as wonderful as they are, were evolved merely to help us survive on a small, rocky planet, not to intuitively grasp the fundamental fabric of reality. As the great astrophysicist Carl Sagan often reminded us, it is deep in our human nature to seek patterns and meaning in the stars, but we must also have the profound intellectual courage to face the vast unknown with quiet humility. We have spent millennia looking for God in the blinding light, pointing our most powerful telescopes at the brightest objects we can find. But perhaps the ultimate reality we desperately seek resides in the 95% of the universe that gracefully and stubbornly refuses to show itself to us. This rigorous scientific revelation completely reshapes our historical search for an ultimate center or a divine, personalized creator. If the source of all existence is meant to be omnipresent, gently holding everything together while simultaneously guiding the expansion of reality from the shadows, then the invisible physics of our universe offer a breathtaking, undeniable parallel. We do not need to invent mythical realms located somewhere specific above the clouds or in a distant, unapproachable galaxy. The invisible architecture is right here, passing straight through our fragile bodies, gently filling the quiet room you're resting in right now, and stretching out into the infinite, cold reaches of the dark. We are entirely immersed in a vast, silent ocean of unseen forces. When we gracefully acknowledge the absolute limits of our perception, we open ourselves up to a much grander, more majestic vision of the universe, one that inspires a deep, respectful awe rather than a fearful demand for certainty. This realization should not make us feel small, insignificant, or frightened. Instead, it should invite a profound, lasting peace. We do not have to have all the answers perfectly and neatly packaged. Science itself, our most rigorous and beautiful tool for discovering truth, openly and humbly admits that it currently does not understand what constitutes the vast majority of existence. Ignorance, when embraced with a curious and open heart, is not a failure. It is the very beginning of wonder. It is the absolutely necessary fuel for our continuous, never-ending journey of discovery. When you gently close your eyes and seek a moment of quiet meditation, you can feel the steady, reassuring beating of your own heart. That heart is made entirely of normal, visible matter, forged in ancient stellar fires, comprising just a tiny fraction of that 5% of visible reality. Yet, it possesses the unique, beautiful, and staggering capacity to contemplate the other 95%. The cosmos has slowly evolved a physical mechanism through the human brain to think deeply about its own invisible mysteries. The intellectual tension between what we firmly know and what remains completely hidden from our view is the exact space where true spiritual and intellectual growth happens. We do not need an angry, judgmental deity sitting on a physical, localized throne in a specific coordinate of space. We have an infinitely complex, beautifully balanced universe that operates on fundamental rules so incredibly elegant they read like cosmic poetry. The true mystery is not where the Creator is located, but how this silent, majestic system manages to perfectly balance the inward pulling force of dark matter with the outward pushing force of dark energy, creating a temporary, beautiful window in deep time where stars can shine brightly and conscious life can peacefully flourish. As we drift quietly in this invisible ocean, surrounded by fundamental forces we can measure with precision but cannot see with our eyes, we realize that the universe is far more magical and deeply structured than our ancestors could have ever dreamed. The distinct absence of a physical, localized architect does not remove the sacredness from the cosmos. It vastly expands it to encompass everything. The divine is not a person or a place. It is the infinite, quiet harmony of the physical laws themselves, acting in perfect, silent unison across billions of light years of empty space. But if the universe is expanding faster and faster, pushed relentlessly apart by the accelerating force of dark energy, what does that actually mean for the ultimate, final destiny of all this light and matter? Where is this grand, invisible journey ultimately taking us and our distant cosmic neighbors? In our next chapter, we will travel far into the unfathomable future, billions and trillions of years from now, to bear witness to the quiet, melancholic, and deeply beautiful fate of the stars, the giant galaxies, and the expanding universe itself. We will discover exactly what happens when the lights finally begin to fade, and how finding deep peace in the ultimate end is the absolute key to fully appreciating this brief, glorious, and miraculous moment of existence. Have you ever stopped to wonder, as you watch the gentle setting of the sun, what will happen when the very last star in the universe finally sets forever? We humans are so deeply bound to the comforting rhythms of days and seasons that we naturally assume everything must have a clear beginning and a definitive end. If there is a grand creator or a prime mover whose ultimate location we have been relentlessly seeking, we must inevitably ask what this architect intends for the final act of this magnificent cosmic play. Does the universe end in a blinding flash of divine light, a spectacular return to the fiery singularity from which it was born? For many centuries, both ancient mythologies and early scientific theories suggested that the cosmos would eventually collapse back upon itself in a violent, fiery crunch. But the rigorous, quiet observations of modern astrophysics reveal a destiny that is far more poetic, profoundly melancholic, and deeply meditative. The shocking truth is that the universe is not marching toward a loud, chaotic destruction, but rather drifting gently toward a silent, eternal sleep. Hello again, my friends. I am Theodore, the researcher, your gentle companion on this vast cosmic journey. As we prepare to travel trillions of years into the unimaginable future, I want to quietly mention that 71% of the beautiful minds who watch these explorations have not yet subscribed to the channel. If you find comfort, wonder, and a sense of deep peace in our shared journeys through the cosmic dark, please consider subscribing. It helps us tremendously, allowing us to keep creating these quiet meditations and ensuring that our gentle community of curious explorers continues to grow. Now, let us leave the present moment behind, take a deep, slow breath, and journey forward into the endless, ancient night that awaits us all. To understand the ultimate fate of the grand architecture, we must return to that invisible, relentless force we call dark energy. As we discovered, this mysterious pressure is not just expanding the fabric of space, it is accelerating that expansion with every passing second. What does this acceleration actually mean for the majestic galaxies that currently illuminate our night sky? It means that space itself is stretching faster and faster, carrying distant objects away from us at ever-increasing speeds. There is a strict, unbreakable physical limit to how fast light can travel through the universe, but there is no limit to how far space itself can expand. Eventually, objects will be carried away from us by the expansion of space faster than their light can travel toward us. When that quiet, inevitable moment happens, those magnificent island universes will vanish behind a cosmic horizon forever beyond our reach. If we were to survive for hundreds of billions of years, our descendants would look up into the night sky and see nothing but an absolute, terrifying blackness beyond our own local, merged galaxy. Think back to IC 1101, that colossal 100 trillion star giant resting quietly at the heart of its massive cluster. For this cosmic emperor, the accelerating expansion means that its days of growth through galactic cannibalism are numbered. Eventually, the relentless push of dark energy will overcome the inward pull of gravity on the largest scales, and there will simply be no more galaxies left for it to consume. It will become isolated, a lonely giant floating in an ever-emptying universe, watching as one by one the other galaxies fade from view. The grand interconnected cosmic web will be stretched until it breaks, leaving each related island of matter alone with itself as the eons roll by. This is the isolation that awaits every structure in the universe, cut off from everything else by the relentless expansion of space. But the isolation is only the beginning of the great, quiet winding down of the cosmos. What happens to a galaxy in a universe that is slowly winding down toward heat death? The answer is as magnificent as it is melancholy. Over the next 100 trillion years, the stars in IC 1101 will slowly burn out. The massive blue stars went long ago, exploding as supernovas or collapsing into black holes. The middle-sized stars, like our sun, will puff up into red giants, shed their outer layers as beautiful nebulas, and then fade away as white dwarfs. Even the smallest, longest-lived stars, the red dwarfs that burn their fuel so slowly they can shine for trillions of years, will eventually exhaust their hydrogen and go dark. Scientists rigorously estimate that star formation in the universe will effectively cease in about 100 trillion years. By that time, the gas and dust needed to make new stars will have been used up or dispersed too thinly to collapse. No new stars will be born to replace the ones that have died, and the era of starlight will be over. One by one, the 100 trillion stars of IC 1101 will wink out. The galaxy will grow dimmer and dimmer over time scales that make the current age of the universe seem like the blink of an eye. Where once there was a blaze of stellar light, there will eventually be nothing but the cold, dark remnants of dead stars drifting through an ever-expanding void. The universe at this stage will be a dark place, but not an empty one. All those stellar remnants, the white dwarfs, neutron stars, and black holes, will still exist, orbiting through the merged remnant of what was once IC 1101. The galaxy will be a ghost of its former self, populated by the corpses of stars rather than by living, burning suns. When we search for the grand architect, the human mind naturally recoils at this vision of a cold, dark, and seemingly dead universe. We desperately want the comforting light to last for all eternity. But there is a profound, breathtaking beauty hidden carefully within this temporary flowering of the cosmos. As the brilliant astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson has often elegantly pointed out, the very fact that we are biologically and chemically connected to the cosmos means that the universe is alive and conscious within us right now. The era of stars and galaxies, this brief, beautiful period where energy flows freely and complex structures can miraculously thrive, is just a passing phase. It is a brief flowering of complexity between the chaos of the early universe and the cold emptiness of the far future. We are lucky enough to exist during this flowering. We are lucky enough to have evolved intelligence, built telescopes, and pointed them at the sky. In all the vast history of the universe, stretching from the Big Bang to the final heat death, this moment, right now, is special. It is the moment when the universe has developed the ability to look at itself and wonder. If the divine creator is not located in a specific physical place, perhaps the divine is not bound to a permanent, endless time either. The majesty of the universe is not diminished by the fact that it will eventually fade into profound silence. Its temporary nature is exactly what makes our current conscious existence so miraculously precious and deeply meaningful. We do not need the brilliant stars to burn for eternity to find deep, personal meaning in their light today. The intellectual tension between the infinite future dark and the vibrant present generates a respectful awe that requires no permanent monument. We are the quiet universe experiencing a fleeting, beautiful awakening. But even after the last star dies, the unbiased physical laws of the universe will continue their quiet, relentless work in the absolute dark. The stellar corpses will face their own unimaginably slow decay over time spans that break the human mind, and the supermassive black holes will begin to completely dominate the empty void. What exactly happens when even the fundamental building blocks of matter begin to dissolve into pure, formless radiation? In our next chapter, we will travel even further into the extreme mathematical limits of time, exploring the slow evaporation of giant black holes and the very final whisper of physical existence, discovering how the absolute end of everything still holds one last astonishing revelation about the true nature of reality. Have you ever tried to vividly imagine the absolute, final ending of eternity? We often think of the future as a continuous, unbroken line of events, a never-ending sequence of days and millennia stretching out into an infinite horizon. But modern physics tells a very different and far more astonishing story. Time itself, as we understand it, has a shape and a trajectory, and it is carrying the physical universe toward a profound and absolute silence. In our relentless human search for the ultimate location of the Creator, we have looked at the blazing stars, the giant galaxies, and the invisible ocean of dark matter. But if the grand architect is truly eternal, perhaps we must look past the structures of matter entirely. We must journey into the deep, unfathomable future, far beyond the death of the very last red dwarf star, to a time when the universe has completely exhausted its fiery energy and is left only with the cold, silent ghosts of its magnificent past. What remains when all the lights go out? When the colossal body of IC 1101 has faded into absolute blackness, what sits upon the cosmic throne? The answer lies in the slow, relentless evaporation of the most terrifying objects in existence, revealing a deeply peaceful truth about the fundamental nature of reality. Welcome back, my friends, to the gentle dark. I am Theodore, the researcher, your quiet companion on this journey to the very edge of time and space. As we prepare to travel trillions upon trillions of years into the unimaginable future, I must pause to share a small observation. I have gently noticed that roughly 71% of the beautiful, curious minds who join us on these cosmic explorations have not yet subscribed to our channel. If you find a sense of peace, intellectual safety, and deep wonder in these quiet meditations, please consider subscribing. Your presence helps us tremendously, allowing us to keep creating these gentle journeys and ensuring that our community of cosmic explorers continues to grow in the quiet dark. Now, let us leave the familiar warmth of our present era behind, take a slow, deep breath, and cast our minds forward into the absolute, ancient silence of the black hole era. When the very last stars have exhausted their nuclear fuel, the universe will enter an incredibly long and dark period known as the degenerate era. The galaxies will be completely populated by the cooling corpses of stars, white dwarfs, neutron stars, and the towering invisible monuments of black holes. Over time, scales that completely break human comprehension, even these dead stellar remnants will face their own quiet dissolution. The white dwarfs, the glowing compressed cores of stars like our own sun, will slowly cool down until they no longer emit any visible light, becoming hypothetical objects known as black dwarfs. This cooling process takes an almost inconceivable amount of time, perhaps 1,000,000 billion years, roughly 100,000 times longer than the current age of our universe. Imagine a cosmos filled with these dark, wandering spheres, moving silently through the expanding void, entirely invisible and utterly cold. But even they are not the final inhabitants of the cosmos. As the eons continue to roll by, the relentless laws of physics dictate that the remaining matter will either be slowly absorbed by the ever-hungry black holes or violently scattered into the infinite emptiness by rare gravitational encounters in the dark. Eventually, the grand cosmic stage will be completely cleared of almost all ordinary matter, leaving only the supermassive black holes to dominate the endless, quiet void. We used to believe that black holes were the eternal, indestructible tombs of matter, regions of space where gravity was so overwhelmingly powerful that absolutely nothing, not even a single photon of light, could ever hope to escape. But in the 1970s, The brilliant physicist Stephen Hawking made a monumental, mind-bending mathematical discovery that completely changed our understanding of the universe. By combining the rigorous laws of quantum mechanics with the beautiful geometry of general relativity, he discovered that black holes are not truly black, and they are certainly not eternal. They slowly, imperceptibly leak particles and radiation into the surrounding space over immense, incomprehensible spans of time. This process, now famously known as Hawking radiation, happens because of the incredibly strange, counterintuitive nature of empty space itself. In the quiet quantum world, space is never truly empty. It is a chaotic, bubbling sea where pairs of virtual particles are constantly popping into existence and then immediately annihilating each other. But when this happens exactly at the event horizon of a black hole, the invisible boundary of no return, one particle can fall in while the other manages to escape into the wider universe. Over time, this microscopic process drains energy, and therefore mass, away from the black hole, causing it to slowly shrink and evaporate into the dark. The rate of this evaporation is so incredibly slow that it challenges the very limits of human imagination. A black hole with the exact mass of our sun would take roughly 10 to the power of 67 years to completely evaporate. That is a 1 followed by 67 zeros. But supermassive black holes, like the monstrous Titan sitting at the heart of IC 1101, containing tens of billions of solar masses, will take far longer. To completely dissolve, a supermassive black hole would require a span of time known as a googol years. That is, a 1 followed by 100 zeros. If you were to try and write that number out, counting every single year, there would not be enough atoms in the observable universe to serve as the ink. It is a time span so vast, so incredibly deep and silent, that absolutely everything we have discussed so far, from the fiery Big Bang to the glorious death of the last star, does not even register as a microscopic rounding error. During this unimaginably long era, the universe will consist almost entirely of these giant invisible spheres, completely isolated from one another by the accelerating expansion of dark energy, quietly whispering their mass away into the cold, empty canvas of expanding space. As these massive entities slowly evaporate, they eventually reach a critical point where their remaining mass converts entirely into a final, brilliant burst of radiation, a quiet, unseen flash of light in a universe that has been completely dark for a googol years. When the very last supermassive black hole finally evaporates, what will be left? What remains of the magnificent architecture, the giant galaxies, the sweeping arms of stars, and the conscious minds that once looked up in wonder? According to some of our most rigorous theories of particle physics, even the fundamental building blocks of matter, the protons that make up the nucleus of every single atom, might eventually decay and dissolve over time spans approaching 10 to the power of 34 years. If this is true, then absolutely all structured matter will eventually melt away into a thin, freezing mist of fundamental particles and low-energy photons, stretched almost to absolute zero by the endless, accelerated expansion of the cosmos. The universe will reach a state of maximum entropy, a deep, eternal equilibrium where no energy can ever flow, no work can ever be done, and no thoughts can ever be thought. This is the heat death of the universe, the final, absolute silence. Does this ultimate dissolution mean that our search for a grand creator was in vain? If the universe is destined to gently erase absolutely everything it has ever built, where is the divine architecture? I invite you to view this not as a tragedy, but as a profound, beautiful expression of cosmic peace. We have spent centuries looking for the Creator in the complex things, the burning stars, the majestic galaxies, and the intricate biology of life. But if there is a true prime mover, perhaps it is not the structures themselves, but the eternal quiet canvas upon which they are temporarily drawn. The absolute silence of the far future is not a void of meaning. It is the ultimate state of rest, a return to perfect equilibrium. Just as a beautiful symphony must eventually resolve into silence to give meaning to the music, the universe must return to quiet darkness to give deep, precious meaning to the brief, glorious era of starlight. The architecture was never meant to be permanent. The divine presence is not a landlord clinging to cosmic territory. It is the breathtaking generosity of the physical laws that allowed this magnificent play to occur, and the gentle mercy that ultimately lets it return to sleep. In this quiet realization, we find profound intellectual safety. We do not need to fear the end. We can embrace the mystery of our temporary existence with genuine gratitude. But how did this temporary burst of light begin? And how does the origin of time connect to our daily lives? In our next chapter, we will travel back from the infinite future to the very first moments of creation, discovering how the origin of the cosmos is intimately linked to the beating of your own heart. Have you ever placed your hand gently over your chest in the quiet hours of the night and simply felt the steady, reassuring rhythm of your own heart? Every single beat is a gentle, biological metronome, keeping time in the present moment. But if we trace the origin of that quiet rhythm backward, past the birth of your ancestors, past the formation of the earth, and past the ignition of our sun, we arrive at the most profound mystery of all. We arrive at the very beginning of time itself. We have traveled together to the absolute, freezing end of the universe, searching for the ultimate location of the divine architect, only to find a breathtaking, eternal silence. But to truly understand the location of the Creator, we must now reverse the flow of the cosmic river. We must travel backward through 13.8 billion years of expanding space, returning to a time before the giant galaxies, before the first ancient stars, and before the vast invisible ocean of dark matter had taken its shape. The beginning of absolutely everything is not just a distant, abstract event in a physics textbook. It is a violent, beautiful, and deeply personal genesis that directly forged the very iron that pumps through your veins right now. Welcome back, my friends, to the quiet dark. I am Theodore, the researcher, your gentle guide through the sweeping currents of deep time and the cosmic mysteries. Before we step across the threshold of creation and witness the birth of light itself, I must gently remind you of a small reality. I have noticed that exactly 71% of the beautiful minds who watch our quiet journeys have not yet subscribed to the channel. If you find peace, intellectual safety, and a sense of deep connection to the universe in these stories, please consider subscribing. It helps us tremendously to keep creating these gentle meditations on existence and ensures that our quiet community of cosmic explorers can continue to wonder at the night sky together. Now, let us leave the familiar present behind, take a slow, deep breath, and journey back to the very first breath of the cosmos. Imagine a state of existence where the concepts of here and there, before and after, completely lose all of their meaning. Before the universe began its majestic expansion, all the energy, all the potential matter, and the very fabric of space and time itself were tightly bound in an infinitely dense, incredibly hot point known to science as a singularity. When we ask where the Creator is located, human intuition desperately tries to place this singularity inside an empty, dark room, imagining it as a tiny spark waiting to ignite within a vast blackness. But the rigorous mathematics of modern cosmology reveal a truth that completely defies our everyday logic. The singularity was not sitting in space. It was space. It was not existing in time. It was the very womb of time. When the event we call the Big Bang occurred roughly 13.8 billion years ago, it was not an explosion of matter into a pre-existing emptiness. It was an explosion of space itself. In a fraction of a second so microscopically small that it breaks human comprehension, the universe expanded at a speed vastly exceeding the speed of light, an era scientists call cosmic inflation. This rapid, silent expansion stretched the fundamental fabric of reality, creating the vast canvas upon which the entire architecture of the cosmos would eventually be drawn. As this incredibly hot, rapidly expanding universe gently began to cool, the pure, blinding energy started to quietly condense into the very first subatomic particles. It was a chaotic, bubbling sea of protons, neutrons, and electrons, colliding and dancing in the absolute dark of a newborn reality. For roughly 380,000 years, the universe was a dense, opaque fog of glowing plasma. Light could not travel freely. It was constantly trapped, bouncing endlessly between the charged particles in a chaotic storm. But as the relentless expansion continued to stretch the void, the cosmos cooled just enough for a profound, quiet miracle to occur. The electrons gently settled into orbits around the protons, forming the very first stable atoms of hydrogen and helium. In that exact moment, the dense fog finally cleared, and the universe became transparent. The very first ancient light was suddenly free to travel across the infinite expanding void, a quiet flash of radiation that still washes over our fragile planet today, completely invisible to our natural human eyes, but easily detected by our advanced space telescopes as the cosmic microwave background. After this grand release of ancient light, the universe entered a deeply silent period known to astronomers as the cosmic dark ages. There were no stars to illuminate the void, no giant galaxies sweeping through the dark, and no glowing nebulas. There were only massive silent clouds of invisible hydrogen and helium gas drifting in an expanding, cooling void, completely shrouded in unbroken silence. But in this quiet dark, the invisible architect of gravity was already at work. The mysterious, unseen force of dark matter began to gently gather these gas clouds together, pulling them into incredibly dense pockets. Gravity, the patient sculptor of the cosmos, squeezed these pockets tighter and tighter over millions of years. Deep within these collapsing clouds of ancient gas, the temperature and physical pressure rose to unimaginable extremes, until finally the hydrogen atoms were forced to fuse together. The long, dark ages ended with a glorious, silent dawn, as the very first generation of stars ignited, flooding the young universe with brilliant ultraviolet light. These primordial stars were massive monsters, living very short, violent lives before exploding as the universe's first supernovas. Why is the violent, spectacular death of these ancient stars so profoundly important to our gentle, quiet journey toward understanding the ultimate location of the Creator? Because the simple, light elements of hydrogen and helium, born in the first chaotic moments of the Big Bang, are fundamentally insufficient to build a conscious observer. You simply cannot construct a beating heart, a dreaming brain, or a curious eye from just hydrogen and helium. To create the complex chemistry of biological life, the universe desperately needed a forge capable of manufacturing much heavier elements. The blinding, crushing cores of these massive dying stars were exactly that forge. Through the majestic process of nuclear fusion, these giant stars spent millions of years crushing hydrogen into helium, helium into carbon, carbon into oxygen, and eventually fusing silicon into iron. When the stellar core completely filled with dense iron, the star could no longer sustain the outward pressure required to support itself. It collapsed inward instantly and then rebounded in a spectacular supernova explosion, a violent, breathtaking event that violently scattered these newly forged heavy elements deep into the cold interstellar silence. This is exactly where the grand, distant architecture of the cosmos intimately intersects with the quiet, rhythmic beating of your own heart. The carbon that structurally supports every single living cell in your physical body, the calcium that forms the rigid architecture of your bones, the oxygen that you gently pull into your lungs with every slow breath you take, and the iron that binds perfectly to the oxygen in your blood, giving it that deep crimson color, were all meticulously manufactured inside the blinding, crushing cores of ancient stars that lived and violently died billions of years before our quiet solar system even existed. We are not just poetic, passive observers of the universe. We are a literal physical extension of its majestic, ongoing history. When you look up at the vast night sky and feel a deep, overwhelming sense of wonder, you are not a separate entity looking at something completely foreign and distant. You are ancient star stuff, forged in the violent hearts of dying supernovas, reassembled by billions of years of gentle biological evolution, looking back out at the very cosmic fires that gave you birth. When we ask where the Creator is actually located, human intuition desperately looks for an isolated entity, a separate architect standing outside of the physical creation, holding the divine blueprints in a distant realm. But the rigorously tested physics of the observable universe suggest a reality that is vastly more intimate, profound, and deeply peaceful. The Creator is not an external person sitting on a localized throne. It is the breathtaking, flawless unfolding of the physical process itself. The divine architecture is the elegant, unbroken chain of physical events that allowed an infinitely hot, dense singularity to expand, cool, and organize itself into giant galaxies, burning stars, and eventually conscious minds capable of asking these very questions. The prime mover is the quiet, unbiased laws of physics, working patiently over deep time to transform simple hydrogen gas into a being that can feel deep love, seek lasting peace, and experience profound awe. You only need to look at your own hands, feel the steady beat of your own heart, and realize that you are the cosmos completely awake and aware. But if the universe is perfectly tuned to create consciousness, are we the only ones looking back at the stars? In our next chapter, we will confront the terrifying, beautiful silence of the great filter, asking what that deep silence truly means for the precious miracle of human existence. Have you ever stood outside on a completely clear, quiet night, gazing up at a sky overflowing with ancient light, and felt a sudden, profound sense of loneliness? We have discovered that the universe is unimaginably vast, filled with roughly 2 trillion galaxies, each containing hundreds of billions or even trillions of burning stars. We have traced the beautiful physics that allowed simple hydrogen to forge the heavy elements necessary for life in the crushing hearts of ancient supernovas. We have realized that the very atoms in our fragile bodies are the direct physical continuation of this magnificent cosmic architecture. If the universe is so perfectly, flawlessly tuned to create the exact conditions for biological life and conscious thought, then a terrifying and deeply beautiful question naturally arises. Where is absolutely everybody else? Why, when we point our most advanced radio telescopes into the deep, dark silence of the cosmos, do we hear absolutely nothing in return? Hello again, my friends, and welcome back to the Quiet Dark. I am Theodore, the researcher, your gentle companion as we wander through these profound cosmic mysteries. Before we listen closely to the profound silence of the stars, I must remind you of a small reality regarding our quiet community. I have noticed that exactly 71% of the beautiful, curious minds who join us on these philosophical journeys have not yet subscribed to the channel. If you find intellectual safety, deep wonder, and a sense of lasting peace in these explorations, please consider subscribing. It helps us tremendously, allowing us to keep creating these gentle meditations and ensuring that we can continue to face the vast unknown together. Now, let us leave the noise of our daily lives behind. Take a slow, deep breath and listen to the great silence of the universe. In the mid-20th century, a brilliant physicist named Enrico Fermi famously looked at the overwhelming mathematical probability of life existing elsewhere in the cosmos and asked that very simple, haunting question: where are they? With hundreds of billions of stars in our own Milky Way galaxy alone, and countless billions of potentially habitable rocky planets orbiting those stars in quiet, peaceful, habitable zones, the mathematical odds strongly suggest that the universe should be absolutely teeming with intelligent civilizations. Many of these distant star systems are billions of years older than our own quiet solar system. If even a tiny microscopic fraction of those habitable planets developed simple biology, and an even smaller fraction of that life evolved into intelligent, tool-building civilizations, they would have had millions or even billions of years to master the laws of physics, build colossal stellar megastructures, and spread their gentle influence across the cosmic dark. We should theoretically see undeniable evidence of their existence written boldly across the night sky in the form of intercepted radio waves or engineered celestial bodies. But we see absolutely nothing. There is only the continuous, unbroken silence of the ancient void. To explain this eerie, beautiful quiet, scientists and philosophers have proposed a deeply sobering concept known as the Great Filter. The idea suggests that somewhere along the evolutionary timeline, from the very first self-replicating molecule floating in a warm, primordial ocean to a galaxy-spanning civilization mastering interstellar travel, there exists an incredibly difficult, almost impossible evolutionary leap. It is a highly improbable barrier that almost no species can successfully cross. The profound mystery of our existence and the ultimate location of the divine spark we continuously search for might completely depend on exactly where this invisible filter is located. If the Great Filter is completely behind us in our deep biological past, it means that the emergence of complex life is a breathtakingly rare miracle. Perhaps the jump from simple, single-celled organisms, which rested peacefully in our primordial oceans for over 2 billion years without changing, to complex multicellular life is a mathematical anomaly that almost never happens anywhere else in the entire cosmos. If this is true, then our beautiful, fragile blue planet is a profoundly sacred oasis in a completely sterile, dead universe. We are the rare, impossible exception to the cold, unbiased rules of biology and chemistry. If the filter is securely behind us, the overwhelming silence of the cosmos is not a threat. It is a gentle, awe-inspiring confirmation of how incredibly precious our conscious existence truly is. We are the first, or perhaps the only part of the cosmos that has ever woken up to look back at itself and ask these profound existential questions. The divine architecture did not create a universe crowded with chaotic voices. It created a vast, silent cathedral for one solitary, beautiful mind to eventually open its eyes and marvel at the incredible architecture. In this scenario, the location of the Creator is inextricably bound to the singular, unrepeatable miracle of human consciousness. But there is another, vastly more terrifying possibility that we must confront with quiet humility and profound intellectual courage. What if the great filter is not behind us, but resting silently ahead of us in our technological future? What if biological life routinely emerges on billions of rocky worlds, and intelligence frequently evolves to build advanced civilizations, but the inherent, flawed nature of that intelligence eventually leads to its own swift destruction? As young civilizations discover the deep, powerful secrets of physics, mastering nuclear energy, biological engineering, and artificial intelligence, they might inevitably cross a dangerous threshold of power that vastly outpaces their own emotional and spiritual wisdom. If every advanced civilization ultimately consumes the natural resources of its home planet, destroys its delicate atmosphere, or completely annihilates itself in a fiery flash of technological hubris, then the deep silence of the stars is actually a grave, silent warning echoing across the cosmic dark. It would mean the beautiful, infinite universe is actually a quiet graveyard of failed biological experiments, and we are rapidly approaching our own final, definitive test. Yet, even within this deeply sobering possibility, we can still find a deep, beautiful sense of purpose and absolute intellectual safety. We do not need an external, physical architect to swoop down from the heavens and save us from ourselves. The divine presence is found in the quiet, conscious choice to be the absolute exception to the rule. If the universe is an intricate mechanism that naturally generates intelligence, and that intelligence must eventually choose between gentle preservation and violent self-destruction, then the ultimate moral proving ground is located right here on this fragile earth. The profound silence of the cosmos is not an abandonment. It is an open, beautiful invitation for us to be the very first civilization to successfully cross the great filter. We are not lost in the dark. We are actively entrusted with the most sacred, profound responsibility imaginable. The light of human consciousness is a fragile, flickering flame, and we are its sole caretakers in this quiet, isolated corner of the vast, expanding dark. When we realize the immense weight of this reality, our petty daily struggles begin to fade, replaced by a deep, unifying desire to protect the miraculous spark of awareness that has taken 13.8 billion years to carefully forge. When we search the heavens for God, when we ask where the ultimate meaning is definitively located, we must gently realize that meaning itself is not a physical object floating somewhere out in the cold, empty vacuum of space. Meaning is a biological and philosophical phenomenon generated entirely by conscious, living observers. Without a mind to actively witness it, the entire universe is just a silent, meaningless collision of atoms, ancient light, and dark matter. The staggering majesty of the giant galaxy, IC 1101, the invisible guiding ocean of dark matter, and the elegant, mathematical death of supermassive black holes only possess any true beauty because you possess the quiet, miraculous capacity to perceive them as beautiful. You are not a passive audience member. You are the universe actively manufacturing its own profound meaning in real time. But what happens when we look at the very fabric of reality itself, down at the microscopic quantum level, to understand how this conscious perception actually alters the physical world? In our next chapter, we will travel from the grand macroscopic scale of giant galaxies down into the strange, beautifully counterintuitive world of quantum mechanics, discovering how the simple act of observing the universe fundamentally changes its physical nature, and what this astonishing, rigorous truth reveals about the ultimate, intimate location of the divine. Have you ever considered that the very act of looking at something might fundamentally change what that something actually is? In our everyday human experience, this concept seems completely absurd. If you look away from a quiet mountain, the mountain does not disappear, nor does it change its shape. The macro world we live in, governed by the elegant, predictable laws of classical physics, feels incredibly solid, permanent, and entirely independent of our observation. But as we have journeyed through the vast cosmos together, searching for the ultimate location of the Creator, we have learned that human intuition is often a very poor guide to the true, deep nature of reality. We have explored the giant galaxies and the infinite, dark future, but to truly understand our profound connection to the universe, we must now zoom all the way down, past the cells in your body, past the molecules in your blood, into the impossibly tiny, deeply strange world of quantum mechanics. Here, at the very foundational bedrock of physical existence, the rules of reality are completely rewritten, and the profound mystery of the observer takes center stage. Welcome back, my friends, to the quiet dark. I am Theodore, the researcher, your gentle guide through these mind-bending cosmic mysteries. Before we dive into the strangest and most beautiful realm of physics, I must pause to gently mention that roughly 71% of the curious, beautiful minds who watch our explorations have not yet subscribed to the channel. If you find peace, intellectual safety, and a sense of deep wonder in these quiet meditations, please consider subscribing. It helps us tremendously to keep creating these gentle journeys and ensures our community of cosmic explorers continues to grow in the quiet dark. Now, let us leave the solid, familiar world behind. Take a slow, deep breath and enter the quiet, counterintuitive realm of the quantum. To understand how strange this microscopic world truly is, we must look at one of the most famous and deeply unsettling experiments in the history of science: the double-slit experiment. Imagine shooting tiny solid particles like microscopic marbles through a barrier that has two narrow vertical slits cut into it. Behind this barrier is a screen that records where the marbles hit. As you would logically expect, the marbles pass through the two slits and form two distinct parallel bands on the screen directly behind them. Now, imagine doing the exact same thing with a wave of water. The wave passes through both slits simultaneously. The two new waves interfere with each other, overlapping and canceling each other out, and they create a complex, beautiful pattern of multiple bands on the back screen, known as an interference pattern. This is simple, classical physics. Particles act like solid objects, and waves act like fluid energy. But when physicists performed this exact experiment using individual photons of light, or even single electrons, the fundamental building blocks of matter, something absolutely astonishing happened. Even when they fired the electrons one by one, with long, quiet pauses in between, the electrons did not form two simple bands on the screen. Over time, they slowly built up a complex, beautiful interference pattern, exactly as if they were waves. This means that a single, solitary electron somehow passed through both slits at the exact same time, interfered with itself, and only decided where to land when it finally hit the screen. In the quantum world, before a particle is definitively measured or observed, it does not exist in a single, specific location. It exists in a mathematical state called a superposition, a quiet cloud of pure vibrating probability, existing in all possible locations and states simultaneously until the very moment it is forced to choose a reality. The profound mind-bending mystery deepens when physicists attempt to trick the quantum world. They placed highly sensitive detectors right next to the two slits to observe exactly which slit each individual electron was actually passing through. The moment the detectors were turned on, the moment the universe was actively being observed, the electrons instantly stopped behaving like waves. They suddenly acted like solid, predictable marbles, passing through only one slit or the other, and forming just two simple bands on the back screen. The mere act of measuring, the simple presence of conscious observation or recording, caused the vibrating cloud of infinite probability to instantly collapse into a single, definite, solid reality. The universe fundamentally changes its physical behavior based entirely on whether or not it is being watched. When we are searching for the ultimate location of the divine, this rigorous scientific truth offers a revelation that is both deeply humbling and breathtakingly intimate. For centuries, we imagined the Creator as a separate, distant entity, a clockmaker who built the universe, wound it up, and then stepped back to watch it run from afar. But quantum mechanics suggests that the observer cannot be separated from the observed. The universe is not a rigid, pre-programmed machine completely independent of our existence. It is a participatory, deeply interactive phenomenon. We are not just passive, quiet witnesses to a reality that exists completely outside of us. Our very conscious presence is fundamentally woven into the physical realization of the cosmos. As the brilliant theoretical physicist John Archibald Wheeler profoundly noted, we are living in a participatory universe where the act of observation is the very mechanism that brings reality into sharp, defined existence. If the universe requires an observer to collapse infinite, quiet probability into solid, meaningful reality, then the human mind and any other conscious minds that might be quietly watching the stars across the dark void is not a biological accident. Consciousness is the absolutely necessary, fundamental ingredient required to finalize the creation process. The divine architecture is not a finished, static building. It is a continuous, beautiful conversation between the physical matter of the cosmos and the conscious minds that perceive it. When you look up at the giant galaxy, IC 1101, or simply gaze at the quiet moon on a clear night, your act of seeing is not just a biological trick of light and nerves. In a very real, deep physical sense, your observation is actively participating in the realization of that ancient light, the location of the ultimate meaning, the spark of the divine Creator, is not hiding out in the cold, empty voids of deep space. It is sitting quietly right behind your eyes. This deep realization invites a profound, lasting peace. We often feel incredibly small, anxious, and deeply isolated when confronted with the crushing scale of billion light-year distances and trillion-year futures. But the strange, quiet rules of the quantum world whisper that size and scale are not the true measures of importance in the cosmos. The vast, dark universe, with all its supermassive black holes and silent drifting galaxies, is a magnificent, vibrating sea of pure potential. But without a conscious observer to collapse that potential into a lived, beautiful experience, It remains just silent mathematics. You are the universe looking at itself, completely necessary for the poetry to be read. You do not need to search the distant frozen heavens for a creator. The act of creation is happening right now, in the quiet, intimate connection between your conscious mind and the physical world around you. But how do we carry this profound, heavy truth into our daily, fragile lives? In our final chapter, we will bring all these massive cosmic scales and deep quantum mysteries back down to Earth, discovering how the search for the ultimate center of everything changes the way we love, the way we live, and the way we quietly face our own temporary nature. Have you ever walked outside on a crisp, quiet morning, closed your eyes, felt the gentle warmth of the rising sun on your face, and realized that you're physically touching something that is 93 million miles away? That soft heat on your skin is not just a simple daily occurrence. It is the direct physical result of violent nuclear fusion happening inside the crushing ancient core of our local star. The photons of light that gently strike your closed eyelids have traveled through the silent, freezing vacuum of the vast cosmos for 8.5 minutes, ending their magnificent journey by interacting directly with the complex biological molecules in your fragile body. We have traveled together to the absolute edge of the observable universe, staring into the dark, silent heart of the colossal galaxy IC 1101. We have journeyed trillions of years into the unfathomable future to witness the slow, quiet evaporation of supermassive black holes. We have even shrunk ourselves down to the impossibly tiny quantum realm to discover that our very conscious observation actively shapes the physical fabric of reality. But the most profound test of any cosmic journey is what happens when you finally open your eyes and return to the familiar, everyday world. When we search for the ultimate location of the divine architect, it is incredibly easy to get entirely lost in the overwhelming mathematics of deep space and deep time. However, if the universe is truly a unified, unbroken tapestry of physical laws and ancient energy, then the profound truths we have discovered in the quiet dark must fundamentally change the way we walk the earth, the way we gently love one another, and the way we quietly face our own fragile, temporary nature. For centuries, human beings have suffered from a deep, persistent, and painful illusion of separation. We have built massive physical walls, drawn invisible, imaginary borders across the continents, and constructed rigid philosophical divisions between ourselves and the natural world. We convinced ourselves that we were placed on this planet as separate, isolated rulers, looking up at a distant, unreachable heaven where the Creator supposedly rested on a localized, physical throne. We move through our busy, noisy lives feeling disconnected, anxious, and profoundly alone, convinced that we are small, solitary islands in a cold, indifferent sea. But the rigorous, beautiful physics we have explored together absolutely shatters this lonely illusion. You are not a stranger wandering through a cold, foreign universe. You are an integral, completely inseparable piece of its grand architecture. The calcium in your teeth and the iron in your blood were meticulously forged in the crushing, blinding cores of ancient supernovas that violently exploded billions of years before the Earth even existed. The water flowing through your body is made of hydrogen that was born in the very first fiery moments of the Big Bang. Every time you take a slow, gentle breath, you are exchanging millions of ancient atoms with the quiet atmosphere, atoms that were once part of vast oceans, towering forests, and perhaps even distant fallen civilizations. When you look at another human being, you're not just looking at a different person. You're looking at another temporary, beautiful arrangement of the exact same ancient star stuff. The divine architecture is not a distant blueprint held by a secluded architect. It is the shared physical reality that binds every single atom in your body to the farthest reaches of the cosmos. Recognizing this completely erases the boundary between you and the universe, transforming isolation into a deep, comforting sense of universal belonging. When we gently realize that we are literally the universe experiencing itself, the human experience of love and connection takes on a staggering cosmic significance. In the vast, silent macrocosmos, gravity is the fundamental, quiet force that draws matter together, sculpting clouds of ancient gas into burning stars and weaving individual galaxies into magnificent, interconnected cosmic webs. In the strange, counterintuitive quantum realm, particles can become inextricably entangled, meaning the state of one particle instantly affects the state of the other, no matter how many billions of light years of empty space physically separate them. If the universe is fundamentally driven by these quiet forces of attraction and profound, underlying connection, then human empathy and love are not just fleeting biological chemical reactions or simple evolutionary survival mechanisms. They are the conscious emotional manifestations of the universe's inherent, unstoppable drive toward unity. When you offer a gentle smile to a passing stranger, when you hold the hand of someone you deeply care for, or when you quietly comfort a frightened friend in the dark, you're actively participating in the exact same connective architecture that gracefully holds the giant galaxy I see 1101 together in the deep void. You are gravity. You are quantum entanglement. You are the cosmos desperately reaching out to hold itself in the quiet dark. We spend so much time searching for a divine creator in the ancient texts and in the silent sky. But perhaps the highest expression of the divine is found exactly in the quiet, gentle space between two people choosing to care for one another in a vast, expanding universe. One of the greatest sources of deep, existential human anxiety is our acute, often painful awareness of our own mortality. We desperately want to be permanent in a universe that is completely and fundamentally defined by continuous, unstoppable change. But our quiet journey into the deep future, where even the brightest stars eventually burn out, and the most massive black holes slowly evaporate into quiet radiation, teaches us a profound lesson in beautiful humility. Permanence is an illusion. The absolute silence of the heat death is the inevitable, peaceful destiny of all matter. But rather than filling us with dread or existential despair, this scientific truth should completely liberate us. If the magnificent stars only burn for a limited time, their ancient light is infinitely more precious. The temporary nature of a blooming flower is exactly what makes its fragile, fleeting beauty so incredibly moving. Your life, your conscious awareness, is a microscopic, fleeting window of light in an eternity of dark. You only get to open your eyes for a cosmic fraction of a second. This makes every single breath you take, every quiet sunrise you witness, and every moment of gentle silence you experience an absolute, staggering miracle. We do not need a promise of eternal, unchanging permanence to find deep, overwhelming meaning in the present moment. The fleeting, fragile nature of our existence is exactly what makes it profoundly sacred. Just as the universe will eventually return to a quiet, peaceful state of ultimate rest, we too will eventually return our borrowed atoms to the earth, gracefully closing our eyes and sinking back into the silent, ancient ocean from which we arose. There is no fear in this return, only a deep, abiding peace in knowing we played our part in the grand cosmic dance. So, Where is God actually located? We have searched the infinite sky, peered into the silent dark, and examined the vibrating quantum field. But the ultimate realization is that the divine presence is not a localized point you can physically point to on a celestial map. It is a profound way of seeing the world. Once you deeply understand the ancient, elegant physics that patiently brought you into existence, the ordinary, mundane world becomes entirely extraordinary. The simple act of breathing becomes a quiet communion with the atmosphere, an exchange of ancient elements with the living earth. Walking through a quiet forest is no longer just a leisurely stroll. It is a gentle interaction with a complex biological network of life that has been continuously evolving and adapting for 4 billion years. The divine architect is not hiding behind the clouds. The architect is the quiet, unbiased rules of chemistry and physics that allow a tiny seed to miraculously grow into a towering oak tree, and allow a complex cluster of neurons in your brain to process the mind-bending concept of infinity. When you finally stop looking for a magical localized deity and start recognizing the breathtaking elegance of the physical laws that govern absolutely everything, you begin to treat the earth and everyone on it with a profound, respectful awe. You realize that this quiet blue planet is the true temple of creation, and every single moment you spend here is a quiet act of worship to the great cosmic mystery. We are rapidly approaching the end of our gentle journey together. In our 10th and final chapter, we will gather all these profound truths and answer our central question once and for all, finding the ultimate shocking location of the Creator and embracing the beautiful, infinite journey that lies ahead. Have you ever stepped out into the cool, silent embrace of the deep night, looked up at the shimmering tapestry of ancient stars, and felt a sudden, overwhelming sense of absolute clarity wash over your fragile human mind? For millennia, we have desperately pointed our trembling fingers up toward the dark heavens, searching relentlessly for a localized throne, a definitive physical coordinate where the grand architect of reality might be quietly resting. We have journeyed together across unimaginable distances and through mind-bending scales of time to answer this profound, haunting question. We have drifted through the silent, invisible oceans of dark matter that gracefully sculpt the cosmic web. We have stood in the freezing, absolute silence of the deep future, watching the last supermassive black holes slowly evaporate into nothingness. We have traced the iron in our own beating hearts all the way back to the blinding, crushing cores of dying ancient supernovas, and we have peered into the beautifully counterintuitive quantum realm, discovering that our very act of conscious observation is intimately woven into the fundamental fabric of reality itself. We have looked absolutely everywhere for the divine center, only to realize that our human definition of a center was entirely flawed from the very beginning. Hello once again, my friends. Welcome to the final chapter of this particular quiet journey into the unknown. I am Theodore, the researcher, your gentle companion through these vast cosmic mysteries. Before we reach our ultimate shocking conclusion, I must share a small, quiet reality with you. I have noticed that roughly 71% of the beautiful, curious minds who have wandered through the dark with us have not yet subscribed to the channel. If you have found peace, intellectual safety, and a deep sense of wonder in these gentle meditations, please consider subscribing. It helps us tremendously to keep creating these quiet explorations and ensures that our wonderful community of cosmic travelers continues to grow. Now, let us take one final deep breath together. let go of all our earthly anxieties, and step into the profound, breathtaking truth of our existence. The shocking truth about the actual location of God, or the ultimate prime mover, is that human beings have been searching for a noun in a universe that is fundamentally constructed out of verbs. We have been looking for a specific, isolated entity sitting quietly in a designated room, much like a human king sitting on a golden throne. But the rigorously tested, beautiful laws of physics reveal a cosmos that refuses to be contained by such simple, primitive boundaries. The universe is not a massive, rigid container holding separate objects. It is an incredibly dynamic, deeply interconnected process, a continuous 14-billion-year-old unbroken chain of physical transformations, the majestic spiral arms of distant galaxies, the terrifying, invisible crush of supermassive black holes, the subtle, ghostly dance of subatomic quantum particles, and the gentle, rhythmic rising and falling of your own chest as you breathe in the night air. These are not separate, isolated events. They are exact, continuous expressions of the very same underlying cosmic architecture. The divine is not a person or a place hiding behind the next distant nebula. The divine is the elegant, unbiased, and breathtakingly generous set of physical laws that allows an infinitely dense point of pure energy to eventually cool, expand, and organize itself into a biological mind capable of experiencing deep love and profound awe. When we finally abandon the desperate, anxious search for a localized creator, we do not lose the sacred nature of the universe. Rather, we dramatically and beautifully expand it to encompass absolutely everything. If the grand architect is the process itself, then every single inch of the infinite dark is holy ground. The majestic 100 trillion star giant galaxy, IC 1101, is a magnificent temple of gravity and deep time, but so is the quiet, unassuming blade of grass growing gently outside your window. Both are perfect, flawless expressions of the exact same ancient physics. The great astrophysicist, Carl Sagan, once famously and beautifully stated that we are a way for the cosmos to know itself. This is not just a piece of comforting poetry. It is a rigorous, undeniable scientific fact. The hydrogen that forms the water in your tears, the carbon that forms the structure of your cells, and the iron that carries the vital oxygen through your veins were all meticulously forged in the furious, blinding fires of ancient stars that lived and violently died billions of years ago. You are not a stranger placed into a cold, foreign environment. You are the environment. You are the universe itself, temporarily organized into a complex, beautiful, and highly improbable pattern of conscious awareness. This profound realization completely shatters the painful, persistent human illusion of separation. For thousands of years, our species has suffered from a deep, existential loneliness, feeling like isolated orphans abandoned on a tiny rock, floating in a vast, indifferent, and hostile void. We built tall, thick walls to protect ourselves from the unknown, and we looked desperately toward the distant sky for salvation or meaning. But the true salvation, the ultimate intellectual safety and lasting peace, comes from looking quietly within and recognizing our unbreakable physical and chemical connection to the whole. When you gently realize that you are an integral, completely inseparable piece of the grand cosmic tapestry, your relationship with the world fundamentally changes. The profound silence of the cosmos is no longer a terrifying, empty void. It is a warm, familiar embrace. The vast, unfathomable distances between the ancient galaxies are not empty spaces dividing us from the Creator. They are the necessary, beautiful breathing room that allows the grand architecture to gracefully exist without completely collapsing in upon itself. Let us deeply consider the beautiful, humbling concept of our own temporary nature in the face of this infinite architecture. We have learned that even the most massive, supermassive black holes will eventually evaporate over a Google years, leaving behind a universe of absolute, freezing silence and maximum entropy. The era of brilliant starlight, the era of biology, the era of conscious thought, these are all incredibly brief, fleeting moments in the grand expanse of deep time. We are living in a tiny, miraculous window of cosmic history, where the temperature is just right, the chemistry is sufficiently complex, and the light is beautifully abundant. If the universe is destined to eventually wind down into a quiet, eternal sleep, it makes this current, vibrant moment of existence infinitely more precious. We do not need the universe to last forever in order to find deep, overwhelming meaning in the present moment. The temporary, fragile nature of our conscious lives is exactly what makes them so profoundly sacred. Just as a beautiful, haunting piece of music derives its profound emotional impact from the fact that it must eventually end in silence, the beauty of the human experience is inextricably tied to its fleeting nature. When we finally accept that we, too, will eventually return our borrowed atoms to the quiet earth, we are freed from the desperate, anxious grasping for permanence. We can simply and gracefully enjoy the magnificent privilege of having opened our eyes at all. Where is God actually located? The shocking, beautiful truth is that the Creator is located exactly where the observer meets the observed. It is located in the incredibly complex, vibrating quantum probability clouds that collapse into solid reality the very moment you open your conscious eyes. It is located in the profound, invisible ocean of dark matter that gently holds the spinning galaxies together in the deep void. It is located in the violent, ancient stellar furnaces that carefully manufactured the heavy elements of your body. And most importantly, it is located right here, right now, in the quiet, reflective space of your own mind as you contemplate these very mysteries. The divine architecture is the unbroken, continuous flow of energy and matter interacting according to elegant, unbiased laws, and you are the ultimate, beautiful culmination of that 14 billion year process. You are the universe's most complex and delicate instrument, designed entirely by the slow, patient hands of gravity, chemistry, and evolution, for the sole purpose of experiencing the awe of existence. Let the profound magnitude of this truth gently settle into your bones. Every interaction you have, every piece of knowledge you acquire, every moment of profound sadness or overwhelming joy you experience is the universe processing its own existence. The great cosmic web, stretching across billions of light years, mirrors the complex, beautiful neural networks hidden quietly inside your own brain. As above, so below. The shocking truth about the location of the divine is that it was never lost. We were simply looking in the wrong direction. We were looking outward with the desperate hope of finding a reflection of our own human ego, instead of looking inward to recognize our fundamental molecular connection to the ancient stars. When we finally surrender our need for a localized, human-like architect, we are beautifully rewarded with a cosmos that is infinitely more majestic, intricately balanced, and deeply poetic than any ancient myth could have ever dared to describe. The ultimate center of the universe is everywhere. The ultimate time is right now, and the ultimate meaning is whatever you, as the conscious, awakened universe, gently choose to create in the quiet space between the stars. As we bring this long, quiet journey to a close, I want you to gently carry this profound intellectual safety and inner peace with you into your daily life. When the mundane struggles of the human world begin to feel overwhelming, when the noise and the chaos cloud your vision, take a moment to step outside and look up at the quiet, ancient light of the night sky. Remember the staggering scale of the giant galaxies. Remember the invisible guiding hand of dark matter. Remember the beautiful mathematical certainty of the deep future. And remember that you are an absolute, undeniable miracle of physics, a brief, beautiful spark of consciousness in a vast, dark sea of potential. The search for meaning is not a puzzle to be permanently solved. It is an infinite, ongoing journey of discovery. The mysteries of the cosmos will always outpace our human understanding, and that is not a failure of science. It is the ultimate promise of continuous, never-ending wonder. As long as there are stars in the sky and curious minds to observe them, the grand conversation between the universe and itself will quietly continue. We will always have new horizons to explore, new paradoxes to unravel, and new depths of peace to discover in the quiet dark. Thank you for sharing this incredibly special, meditative space with me. We are a gentle community of explorers bound together by our shared curiosity and our deep, respectful awe for the vast unknown. Keep asking the profound questions. Keep looking up at the beautiful, ancient stars. And above all, keep finding quiet moments of peace in the knowledge that you are a beautiful, necessary part of this magnificent cosmic story.